Oh, hey guys, welcome to the BMES panel. I know a lot of you are taking exams right now, so hope they go well. We're recording this and it'll be up on the BMES website. This is the third year we've had the panel, and I know personally, as a sophomore, it helped me a lot making decisions. So I hope you guys watching get helped out too. And we'll go to get started. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves and with your name, where you're from, major, and what you're doing right now or in the future. We'll start with you.
I'm Stephanie Cohn, and I'm from Little Rock, and I'm a biomed major and a nanotech minor. And I am going to grad school to start a PhD at the UNC Chapel Hill NC State joint program next year, where I'll be working in an orthopedics lab.
Okay, I'm Samantha Kirk. I'm a biomedical engineering master student. I have a bachelor's in biology. I'm currently researching an autologous breast cancer cell vaccine, and I will start a PhD program in bioinnovation at Tulane in the fall.
I'm Jackson Boyce, another BMed. I forgot what we were supposed to say. Where I'm from? Okay, I'm from a small town in Missouri called Lamar, and next year I'll be going to Kansas City to start medical school at the Osteopathic Medical School in Kansas City.
My name is Gage Greening. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm currently a biomedical engineering major. And next year I'll be pursuing a PhD in biomedical engineering in Dr. Bloom's lab here at the University of Arkansas.
Josh Hutchison from Memphis, Tennessee, also biomedical undergraduate senior, and I'll be a graduate student in Dr. Mulligan's lab also next fall.
I'm Tim Muldoon. I've been here for about 2 years. I'm an assistant professor in biomedical engineering. I grew up outside of Detroit, Michigan, and I did my bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. From there, I moved to Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, where I began the MD PhD program. I was actually an MD student for a year, and that began in 2004. I did my PhD in bioengineering at Rice, where I graduated in 2009, and then I finished my MD in 2010. From there, I moved to New York, and I was a postdoc at Columbia from 2011 to 2012, and I started here in August of 2012.
So since a lot of you are not here, we collected some questions beforehand, and we're going to ask our panel some broad questions. Hopefully they'll help you guys out. And we'll start with the audience if they have any questions at all.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, my name's Keenan Alec, and this is my first year here at the University of Arkansas. And so, like, what made you guys, like, out of all the majors, like biology, business, biological engineering, what made you pick, like, biomedical?
We'll start from the left, or the right, I guess.
I mostly picked biomed because I was interested in doing research on kind of sports medicine related topics, and this seemed like a good path for going into more of a research basis instead of biology, which I felt like had a lot of pre-med background, so I was interested in doing more of the physics and mechanics aspects.
Okay, well, I started in biology. I have a bachelor in biology. I want to say I switched to biomedical because, I mean, the way I kind of think of it is that a biomedical engineer can do everything a biology major could do, but you have more opportunities to begin with. And so that's kind of why I switched, and you see more of like the process of how things work instead of just like studying the body or whatever.
I picked biomed because when I came in, I thought I might want to do med school, but I wasn't sure, so I thought it'd be a good major to kind of get my feet wet, but still keep my options open.
And I was a lot of the same way. I actually started out as a biology major, thinking that I was going to do pre-med and go to medical school, but wasn't really sure. And then in my second semester as a freshman, I decided to switch to biomedical engineering just because I felt like it might provide some more opportunities and to kind of see if I liked the engineering side of things, and I did, so I stuck with biomedical engineering. And I won't be pursuing an MD, but it's kind of led me into this PhD research route.
Yeah, kind of a broken record here.
I was pre-med to start, and started getting interested into the engineering side of things, but I originally went into biomedical instead of biology because of the diversity. So I could do more things if I wanted to later on down the road because I wasn't 100% sold on going to medical school. And then, fall back to the biology degree as a teacher. So.
Strong being a teacher.
High school teacher.
You want my opinion on this one?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I was always interested in, I think, engineering applications, and I think in high school I was interested in pharmaceutical type work, or so kind of on the border between biology, chemical engineering, and then I remember reading about biomedical engineering. I thought it was very interesting and a lot more, I think, relatable than some of the more esoteric engineering topics. When I came in, I remember we did a show of hands at once in med school. Like everybody I didn't like was like raise their hands, and I was like, I want nothing to do with these people. And I don't know. After a while, I kind of got interested in clinical medicine, and I thought that would be an interesting route. But I continued doing research throughout my undergraduate career. I worked in some bad places before I finally found a good place that I enjoyed, but that was towards the end of my senior year after I'd already started, I'd already been applied and got accepted to medical school, so I was like, let's just do that. But, in medical school, it's very, especially the first couple of years, it's very, for me it was very difficult because it was very, kind of memorize and regurgitate type stuff. It was a lot of memorization, which I knew going in, but, a couple of years of that, I started to miss the intellectual freedom that I think a more academic career, at least academic experiences gets you. So I started to pursue my options as a medical student to do research, and then I took a shot at it to apply to the PhD program when I got in. And I guess over time, I worked in a very translational lab for my PhD, so we did a lot of clinical type projects where I was in the pathology lab or the surgery suite. And then that eventually kind of, focused my interest, my research interest and career interest on these sorts of translational projects. And so it was sort of a 10 or 12 year journey. I think of sort of gradually changing my mind from one thing to another. But I'm very happy that I found this particular niche. I think it's a really good fit for me. I really enjoy being able to teach sort of individually in the lab, more one-on-one, and I enjoy teaching the larger classes. But I really like the research aspects. I like getting things built in the lab. I like putting together manuscripts. Grant writing is a little soul draining sometimes, but it's also been kind of fun, I have to say. And it's something I wish I had started many of those things sooner. So if you're interested in medical school, if you're interested in graduate school, the advice that I kind of give everybody is try to get involved early at some level, whatever you can, just to get some exposure and help you make those decisions about what you want to do 4 years down the road.
So you mentioned that research had a really big influence on the career path that you ended up choosing. So could you tell me a little bit about what research you're involved with and what made you decide to get involved with that lab?
I've been working with Dr. Balchandran's lab since, I guess like a year and a half ago now, in the fall of my junior year. And I knew going into my junior year I was interested in grad school, and I figured that I wanted to, double check that I liked research before I completely committed. And so I've been working kind of with a biomaterials project with him for a couple of years now. And I also, over this past summer, did an RU at Stanford, where I worked in an electrical engineering lab, working with microfluidics and testing for protein assays. And so I've had kind of a mixed bag of research experiences. But
I've been working in Dr. Zahara's lab for about a year and a half now. I originally wanted to work in his lab because, I wanted to study breast cancer, and so he does a lot of work with cancer, and so that's why I initially met with him and started doing that, and then it just kind of developed into, developing a vaccine. I didn't intentionally want to make vaccines or anything. I wanted to study breast cancer, and it just kind of wanted to do it.
I'm working in Dr. Mulvaney's lab right now. I started out working in his lab because I thought he was He hasn't proven me wrong yet, but we got a couple weeks to go. What I've been working on is phenotypically classifying different cells to set up this kind of algorithm so that you can take a sample of a patient's cells and run them through a test and just get a feedback from a machine that tells you if any of the cells are cancerous or not.
So I've been working in Dr. Muldoon's lab as well, and my project is kind of focused on building some instrumentation to be able to detect cancer in the esophagus or oral cavity using some optical imaging techniques. So that's a lot of what this lab is focused on, is kind of these translatable optical imaging devices, and so I've been working on one of those projects.
What made you interested in getting involved?
What made me interested, I wanted to get involved with research because I was at the point that I got involved in the lab was I was kind of debating whether I wanted to go to medical school or graduate school. And so I wanted to get involved with the lab, and ended up kind of liking what Dr. Muldoon was doing and thought I might be interested in it. And I really liked what I was doing. So I guess I kind of just found a lab and liked it and have stuck with it.
Yeah, I'm also working in Dr. Muldoon's lab, and I started, so I could run to you last spring. Well,
Sounds so hostile.
You really asked me today. So yeah, last spring, I went to talk to him about research. We just started talking about it and what the opportunities would be. Actually started this past fall, so I've been in for a semester and I guess a little over half now. And I've done a couple of small projects before this with some fiber optic cables, and this semester have been mostly focused on a supplemental project with Gauge. Did you talk about the DME at all?
Not really.
Okay, so Gauge has been working on developing and validating diffuse reflectance microendoscopy as a way to detect early stage cellular dysplasia using optical phantoms. And I have a different part of that on the more fiber optic side of it, so I've been doing that.
What was the question?
Well, what made you interested in research? And you'd kind of explained that already, so I won't make you go through it again. So, other than research, what other things did you guys do outside of school, like study abroad or internships, things like that?
I did my summer after my sophomore year. I went abroad to Sweden with the Health Teams Abroad program through Arkansas. And then this past summer, I did the REU, or Research Experience for Undergrads, through the NSF at Stanford. So that was also different, but it was kind of more internship-y than just doing research all the time, because we learned a lot more about NSF grant applications and more general stuff.
How did you find these opportunities? Did you just Google them, or did someone?
I Googled a lot of things.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't do study abroad or anything like that. In undergrad, I spent the majority of my time in an executive leadership position in my sorority. So I did that for 2 years, and then I did a bunch of random stuff across campus. I was a student ambassador, I was an orientation mentor, I tutored athletes, and just did a bunch of little stuff like that. So nothing research oriented, but a lot of like leadership.
After my sophomore year, I went on a study abroad to Belize, and that was cool. And I volunteer about once a week at the VA. I've been in charge of a couple of RSOs at different points, and right now I'm in charge of the triathlon club, which is part of club sports.
So I was never involved with a study abroad or an REU. I really wish I would have. The study abroad is something that it would be a lot of fun no matter what major you're in. But if there are no study abroad opportunities available or whatever, a volunteer, like Jackson said, is always a great thing to get involved in, especially if you're thinking if you're pre-med and you're thinking medical school, definitely get involved and start volunteering. I guess my summers weren't really glorious at all. I actually worked 2 years as a janitor at the school district by my house, so it wasn't very fun. But in school, I was involved with the triathlon club for about a year until things got really hectic this semester. I've been kind of focused on research and kind of trying to get some papers published. But definitely, if you have the opportunity, get involved with an REU or study abroad.
Yeah, I also didn't have anything super focused into research until I got involved with documenting and undergraduate research. Mostly outside of academic, my involvement was I'm a member of an IFC fraternity, and also have been on a leadership team for a spiritual organization on campus called Student Mobilization. And the past 2 summers, I've actually been a participant and a leader at their summer program. It's for spiritual and leadership development for 9 weeks down in Destin-Porto. So I think anything that you do in outside involvement other than academia, it can serve to increase your network of people that you know, leadership skills, talking to people, things like that. So I think that anything like that is definitely beneficial.
I had also kind of a broad range of things that I did when I was back in undergrad. My first research job involved autoclaving garbage, and I didn't realize that wasn't actually research for a while, which sounds dumb now, but I guess I was looking for a job where I could get paid, and no one's gonna, I don't know, I guess I got paid to clean up the garbage. So I got good at running the autoclave, I got good at cleaning glass pipettes. That was really gross, actually. So that's one of the things that I would say is somewhat important is those types of jobs, you don't want to get stuck in a situation where all you're doing is autoclaving garbage or washing glassware or things like that. You want to do something that is somewhat more meaningful. Like I said, I think I had a good experience later on towards the end because I had a little bit more autonomy over my project. And I think it's very important for the PI. The PI usually doesn't have as much time to really sit down and think. But it's important to make sure that the student has an actual project to do. So whenever someone comes into my lab, I try to think about what is a project that they can run independently. Of course, they have to learn some skills from some of the other students that have been working there for a while. But if you're looking for a good research experience, that's kind of what you want to look for. Something where you'll learn some skills from some other people, kind of following them along or shadowing for a while. But you kind of want to have your own project at some point. Whether you're there after 6 months or a year, you want to have something that is yours, because when it becomes yours, I think you're much more involved in it, and you'll learn everything that there is to know about that one particular niche that's going on in that lab. And that to me was a very helpful experience. In terms of summer programs, I think it's definitely important to try to identify those and apply to as many of those things as you can. Doing something off-site out of the university for a summer, I think is a valuable experience if you can manage that. Not everybody can. I know some of these things don't pay. It's hard to just pick up and move somewhere where you're going to not have money, right? So those are somewhat difficult to find sometimes. I did one summer between my junior and senior year at the NIH, which was actually really beneficial, I think. Of course, it looks good on the resume, but it gave me a good appreciation for the difference between an academic lab and academic lab at a university and a lab at government level. And like Josh was saying, I think it's important to sort of diversify your repertoire, at least in terms of being somewhat scientifically literate. It's good to know sort of the process of how other people run their labs, and maybe even I talk to some of the other students or postdocs and learn from them what their experiences were and what they liked, what they didn't like, what they found helped them in being successful. So, and then other things I did. What else did I do? I was a vice president of the How Way to Pi chapter. I was on the hockey club. We had a hockey club team.
I didn't know you played hockey.
Yeah, I did. I could skate pretty well, but I'm not really big, so I just bounce off people. I scored one goal one time. So that was fun. You know, I mean, it's good to you should have fun when you're with what you're doing. It's not all about work, and you got to maintain a good balance between having a real life and doing what you need to do to finish. And so I guess the last thing, I'm sorry to kind of long-winded, but the last thing I would say is you don't also, the flip side of that is you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. I've had a number of students come to me saying that they're part of this activity and that activity and this extracurricular activity and on this particular thing. And, you don't necessarily need like 10 different, vice president positions and some student RSO. Pick one or two, and that's good. You don't need to stack your resume with like 10 of those things, because at some point you're going to have too many and you're not going to do any of them good, any of them well. You want to do a good job at the things that you're involved in. So keeping things balanced is I think a good approach.
Thank you.
So this is for the guys coming to grad school. There are different paths you can take to grad school. Would you mind telling us the paths you chose and why you did and how you came to that decision?
I'm going straight into a PhD program from undergrad, so I won't be going through the master's kind of path, I guess you would call it. But I mostly did that because I knew I was interested in going all the way through PhD and didn't want to think about stopping in a master's, and I also wasn't changing fields. So I feel fairly comfortable just going straight through it. But what was the rest of the question?
How did you come to that decision on the path you were taking?
Yeah, I decided because that's just kind of, I was interested in the research and wanted to get straight into it.
So I got my master's before getting my PhD. I came into my master's with 0 research experience, which I do not suggest. So managed to get into the lab. But I started at master's because I wasn't positive that I would really like research. And so I figured, master's 2 years, if I don't like it, then I have a master's degree and I know that I don't want to do my PhD. But then after a while, I really got into it and enjoyed what I was doing. But since I got both my bachelor's and master's from the University of Arkansas, I thought that I needed to go somewhere else and kind of diversify myself a little bit.
And yeah, I guess for me, I got involved in a lab my junior year, and I don't really have a good answer why I decided to go straight into a PhD, but I had originally thought that I just wanted to get my master's degree just to kind of continue on what I've been learning about. But then decided that I think that I've got what it takes to do a PhD, and then I've just got some personal ties here that allow me to do this. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, like I said before we started recording, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do until my last semester. And I saw an opportunity to stay in Dr. Muldoon's lab. I really enjoyed the hands-on stuff that I was doing, some of the optical mechanics and image processing. I liked the aspect that I could learn the applications and programs that I wanted to. It wasn't like a class setting where somebody was making me do things. It was like I actually got to learn because I wanted to implement this stuff into a project that actually had an end goal that I could see results for. And yeah, I'm right now I think I'm assured a master's. I think I'm still in tryouts for a PhD right now.
All right. The next question we have is: I know you guys take a lot of interviews, do a lot of interviews while you're interviewing for REUs, internships, med school. So was there something on your resume that really jumped out to people, or was brought up a lot that you wish you had or do have? It's kind of a long question.
I have on my resume, I put research at the very top because everything I applied to is very research driven as far as PhD programs went. And so it really helps me that I have multiple experiences from doing an REU and from doing research here. So I think having the kind of diverse lab background has helped me, and the people here for 2 years now. And so that's kind of helped that I've changed office positions, but just been focused on doing one thing. Like Dr. Muldoon was saying earlier, just I kind of picked one area and decided I was going to be a leader in that and not try to stretch myself over it.
I'm not really sure. Yeah.
I think most of the interviewers just like to pick one thing off of the resume and say, you know, why does this particular activity make you a good candidate? So I think, you know, you want to do stuff that you find fun and you know, that makes you excited, but you always have to have that reason in the back of your mind why this actually helps me. So, you know, I think it's important to, you know, kind of think about that.
So from the med student perspective or medical school interviews, how were you able to explain like why you wanted to go into medicine when you came from a background of engineering?
You know, that's a pretty common question too. People kind of look at you and they say engineering, that's not really medicine at all, but you step back and you say, well, it helps me think a little differently, it helps me think through these problems, gives me more of this problem-solving approach, and I think people really respond to that, and you know, they kind of respect that.
I don't have a whole lot to add, except just kind of highlighting what everybody else said is that if you don't want to try to like pad your resume or build your resume with 10 different activities, kind of like Stephanie did. She's been a member of Cal Beta Pi for 2 years, and somebody's going to ask her about that. She actually has something to talk about rather than trying to like piece together information from like 10 different things. So really pick with one thing, and research is important, but whatever that one thing is that you're involved in, one or two things, just kind of make sure you work hard at it and you'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I have to add is to try to decide as early as possible where you're going so that you can refine that resume and steer all your outside skills towards that. You know, if you want to go into industry, you know, getting internships with companies and stuff like that. If you want to go into graduate school research, get under a PI who can train you in some lab techniques and stuff. But also, I think it's worth saying, like everyone knows, someone who's on the club hockey team, you know, having things that you have a passion for and an interest in. People don't want to see that you were just kind of funneled through this engineering pipeline and, you know, spit out a nice engineering student that did everything right, but you made conscious decisions on your own throughout your undergraduate degree. Like I mentioned Kaleo, the summer project that I was involved in for 2 summers. People like to ask me about that because it's on my resume that I was an intern leader, and that I spent 2 consecutive summers there in smack dab in the middle of my undergraduate, which normally people don't do that. But the leadership skills that I gained there and the emotional intelligence and being able to talk to people that I gained there was invaluable, and I get to talk about that aspect. And so having things that you consciously go after because you're like, man, I'm passionate about that, or I know that I can learn from this person or this person, I think that's definitely
I think to bring it back to the medical school thing, and I think there's certainly a lot of interview dogma that goes into that whole process. But I think Jackson had a very good response when you said you should think about that question, like, why do you want to go to med school? Because everybody asks you that, and tying it into your experiences is, I think, the question that they're really asking. And so what you said was exactly what I said 13 or 14 years ago now. You know, engineering is I think a great way to learn problem solving. Gives you a little bit of a different angle, I think, than other people who come from a more biology background or, you know, basic science background in general. And then on top of that, I think having a little bit of practice never hurts. So whether you're interviewing for an actual RU type program or an internship with a company or medical school, you know, having somebody who you don't really know asking you questions might be a good idea. You know, sort of like practicing in front of the mirror, but practicing where you actually get good feedback. Something helpful.
On that note, did you guys use anything, any resources that the university offered for interviews or anything like that, like the CDC? Or
Yeah, I did a mock interview at the Career Development Center.
did that help?
Yeah, I was terrible before that, but I think I interviewed pretty well now. So.
You got in, so.
Yeah.
Do they still do the mock interviews in FUP?
Yes, they do.
They do?
Yeah.
That was really cool. I actually ended up being pretty good friends with the guy that I interviewed with. He was a really cool guy. He was in the military, so.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool that FUP did that. I think it's a great opportunity, so.
Yeah, I think he does a lot of really good kind of career advancement training type things.
Yeah, they're very diverse in the opportunities that they give freshmen.
Yeah, like I'm in FEP this year, and they're like after the interview was over, he like evaluated me about all the stuff I did good, like right and wrong, you know. Like I would use my hands a lot, which would distract him from like what I'm saying up here. So it's like,
I didn't say that kind of distraction.
yeah. So trying to cut back, I guess.
So for those that don't know about like the timeline for applications and things like that, when during your undergrad career did you start studying for the GRE or the MCAT, and when did you apply during the year?
I just took the GRE, and I'm a bad example of this, but I didn't actually study for it, but I took it at the end of finals week my junior year in the spring because I knew I would be gone all summer, and so I didn't want to like have to deal with it when I was in a different state. Like I didn't know how to, find a testing site. So I just figured that I would take it once then and see if it worked out well, that would be good. And if nothing else, I knew that you could take it a lot farther up towards your application date. So I did that, and then I started making a list of schools that I wanted to apply to over the summer before my senior year and started researching labs there. And then most of my applications were due in December, I guess, but it was kind of spread between like November to January or February.
Yeah, I would say that's dependent upon a lot of different things. First, when you're trying to decide what school, I would don't look at the school, look at what labs you want to be in first. And then the school will have different deadlines. So for Arkansas, for the fall, I want to say I turned my application in February, and I took the GRE in January. So that was fine though, and I started studying like a month before that. So it wasn't definitely not as long as advantage as med school is. And then for Tulane, my application was due February 1st, and I did take the GRE again.
Okay. The MCAT, you usually take it early summer or late spring, right after your junior year, and you really just need to study as much as you think you need to study. I pulled a Stephanie and didn't study nearly enough. But then
Way more risky for the MCAT.
yeah,
Yeah.
Throw that.
I don't recommend it. You should crack open a few books. But basically, as soon as you get your scores back from that, then you decide if you're going to continue your application or not. And you pretty much want to finish your application and have it submitted about the time school starts, not a little bit before. The pre-med committee on campus doesn't suggest submitting it until after the committee interviews, but that puts you a little behind in the application cycle, and that's more of a personal choice that everybody has to make for themselves when they want to actually submit.
So I'm going to grad school here at the University of Arkansas, and I think the final application deadline was sometime in February, like February 10th or sometime in the middle of February. So ideally, you don't want to have to wait to take the GRE until the semester before you graduate. Ideally, you want to take it like 2 semesters before you graduate. And I took the GRE last May, so 11 months ago, and I didn't study too much for it either. But yeah, the GRE, it's you should study. It's a really difficult test, and not as hard as the MCAT would be. So I don't know, but it's a long test. It's like a 4-hour test. But again, ideally you want to take that about 2 semesters before your deadline to whatever school you're trying to get into.
Yeah, so I think that when you take a test in application process and everything depends on where you're coming from and where you're going. So I knew I wanted to stay in Dr. Muldoon's lab, and so I wasn't coming from anywhere. I was there, and I wanted to go to grad school here anyways, and I didn't apply anywhere else. And so for somebody coming from biology or going from a master's to a PhD, or like Stephanie going to a different school and going to graduate school, your GRE scores and your application deadlines are way more important. But what was more important for me was actually proving that I was worthy to stay in the lab with Dr. Muldoon rather than my actual test scores and application process. And so I actually, they were making the decisions on graduate school this April for the biomedical program. And so really, I was kind of like, okay, if I get it in before April, then I'll be fine. I actually didn't take my GRE until the end of February this semester. And just like the other overachievers over here, I didn't start much.
It might not be the best panel.
Yeah. We all scored fine.
I don't think my information is relevant anymore because I took the MCAT in April of 2000, or 2001, April of 2001, back when it was offered on paper only twice a year. So we were limited in when you could take it. And I remember I agree with them. I think this, you got to put in some time to study for that thing. A lot of people sort of put it off in the last minute. But everybody studies and learns differently. So for me, I don't know. I don't think I took the GRE, but I didn't have to take the GRE because I was in the MD PhD program, so we were already like shuffled off the graduate school anyways. But the MCAT thing, for me, what was important was taking a lot of practice exams or practice sections of that exam. My score went up a lot having done that. I think it's just you learn how to take the test. It doesn't make you smarter. You just learn how to take the test. And that helps a lot. And it was all downhill after that one. But that was my best, I think, standardized test.
How many months before did you start preparing for that exam?
I wasn't insane. I think I started like January or something. So, but I really didn't hit it hard until maybe a month out, 6 weeks out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the GRE is a quantitative and verbal reasoning. So kind of like Dr. Muldoon said, you know how to take the test. Like there's no math on there that you have never seen. The MCAT is more knowledge based with your physiology and physics. And now sociology, isn't sociology on
Yeah,
the one?
they were talking about sociology and psychology and
That's
ethics.
coming up.
Yeah, so that's more like information based, but the GRE is more like test taking skills.
So for the GRE especially, know the types of questions that are going to be asked on the test rather than studying the English, trying to learn vocab, just kind of study how to take the tests and know the different types of questions that are going to be asked.
All right, well, thank you for your answers. I think we'll grill them enough. If we have any last questions, I'm sure the panel will take them. Do we? We don't. All right, well, I'd like to thank the panel for being out here. I hope you guys get a lot of valuable information from everything we've had to offer today. Thank you. And